Radio Free Skaro!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Radio Free Skaro, episode number 1018. I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
Can you believe it's been a week? One whole week since we finished Doctor Who.
1 whole week since 2 weeks after Eurovision. Yep.
That's...
Yes.
It's been 3 weeks since Eurovision, hasn't it? I don't remember now.
Exactly.
It was Eurovision.
1 week after 2 weeks.
1 year. Oh, I see. I got you now.
That's needlessly cryptic. The nerd way.
Austria won, right? Austria?
Technically correct. The best kind of correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Austria won.
Austria won.
Won Eurovision and stuff. Season 2 of Doctor
Dugga
Who.
Doo won. Let's be honest. Here.
Oh my God, Dugga Doo. In the show notes.
Not the Giant Feet song?
Big Feet. My Big Feet did not win, nor did the other one with from the Hellion that win, or the other one from the person from Dalek's Master Plan. That didn't win either.
As the one amongst us three who has the biggest feet, I don't know if I should be happy or sad.
I don't know.
I have no opinion in this matter.
No. How big are the feet of Hellions? Is the question one of the many questions left unanswered. Perhaps that was asked in the Fluid Links. I'm just trying to segue into the actual theme of the show today. We're doing some Fluid Links for season 2. We asked it at the end of last week's ramshackle episode of us reviewing question mark the finale of Doctor Who
Lamenting,
season 2, and so we put the call out to you. You know what? I mean, a lot of the. You know, we asked for questions for Fluid Links, and we got a lot of them. But there's also a lot of comments, and people said, "You know what? I like this. I like this season, and this and that." There was a lot of positive comments on there. Unfortunately, the three of us here, I think, probably were a little more down on the season. You might have been able to tell over the past few weeks. We apologize for that. If our not necessarily we're not apologizing for our opinions, but. Maybe our frustrations were coming out at times during the course of our reviewing these episodes.
Well, now that we've had a whole week to think on things,
right?
Like I don't think I was as down on any episode this past season relative to season 1.
Interesting, yeah.
Like
depends.
Space Babies is pretty dire. The Devil's Cord is pretty dire. I don't think I felt that way about anything we saw this year.
I did about the Reality War. I was pretty meh about the Reality War. But other than that, I think you're right.
Lucky Day was greatly disappointing.
Yeah.
But from a structure standpoint, I don't know. I think like just still fresh in the brain enough that I would happily watch season 2 again, and I'm not so sure about season 1, which makes perfect sense when the season 1 Blu-ray is going to hit my door in 2 weeks.
That's true. Yeah, it's coming out.
The other thing is when you're in the midst of watching Doctor Who, you're either it's a higher high or a lower low, just because you're in the midst of watching it, as opposed to like a week later when you've had time for everything to settle.
Yeah.
Well, when I went back and watched season 1 again before season 2 started, I definitely enjoyed it more. Like even Space Babies, I enjoyed more. Which might just be the distance or my, I don't know, might be just mental justification of things. But, yeah, I think at this point, I'd still rather watch 2 than 1.
Interesting. I think after this episode, I think we'll probably put the last 2 episodes to bed for at least a couple weeks, just to let it sit there a little bit, you know.
So.
You're right. I do kind of want to go back to it. One thing though, I will. This is, I mean, you won't have heard it yet, but we recorded Erica and I and Chip and Annette and Heather, all 5 of who, and 6 with Jason Snell, of course, hosted The Incomparable. We did an Incomparable review of season 2, and none of us there were quite complimentary either.
And Chip is very RTD. Favorable, I guess, generally speaking. Down
in the season 2. And anyway, that's coming out, like, I think in a couple weeks from now. We've already recorded. If you are, I think, an Incomparable member, you get the extended version early, so you might have already heard it. But I said it. I said in the post-credit scene, I said this is exclusive of this, but I'll say it on Radio Free Skaro, so I'm saying it now. In that, because of course, at the end, spoilers for season 2 of Doctor Who, it ends with Ncuti Gatwa regenerating into Billie Piper. And we were all like, thinking, what's going to happen? Are they going to do like specials with Billie Piper? Is she the new Doctor or anything like that? And then it dawned on me towards the end of it, and I said it here. Here's my guess / prediction / thing that an RTD might do. In 3 words, children in need. This screams of Billie Piper in the TARDIS set. They still have the TARDIS set for a 5-minute skit, and then regenerates into the new Doctor. So basically, they have 5 months to pick a new Doctor, and then there'll be a Children in Need special, and then that'll be the new Doctor. So basically, they have 5 months to figure out what's going to happen with Doctor Who after this, and then once they have a new Doctor, maybe they can move it. This is purely a guess. This just feels like an RTD thing, So
the more I think about that, the more it makes logistical behind the scenes sense to me. Having said that, what if you don't watch Children in Need? And then you're like, what the hell? She was a doctor, now she's not. And then, if you're just some random viewer who didn't watch, maybe watched the end of Doctor Who and doesn't really know what the hell's going on. And then further, never watched Children in Need, doesn't know what the hell's going on.
What if you didn't watch The Three Doctors? What if you didn't watch Pyramids of Mars? What if you didn't watch
Well, yes, but
Time of the Rani?
That's a facetious response, but a correct one.
Exactly.
I mean, you're right. You're both absolutely right about this. I'm saying that makes total sense, and it's also dumb. So there we go.
therefore, it makes sense. It makes sense, but it's still really dumb. Therefore, it makes sense.
It makes sense that it would happen, is what I mean.
Yeah.
Not that it's a good idea.
No.
One thing we didn't know at the time that we do know now is it was just Billie Piper's head superimposed on.
Yeah.
On Gatwa's body, hence the lack of change of clothes. Not that. That's whatever she would have. If they had the overalls, no, sure, fair enough. But no, they just superimposed her head over his.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I don't know how much time they had for that, but it seems like a rush job.
Yeah, an hour, probably an hour. Listen, the people who made Doctor Who Unleashed 20 Years in Wales didn't even know about it, so
that's true.
It must have happened pretty dang quick. RTD
like some closet with green screen in it.
Yeah,
and that was shot early April. They said in the thing.
Yes, it was.
One of the segments anyway was shot early April.
Yeah, he and RTD were in the plaza there in Cardiff to shoot that bit. So. On a thing that you will not see on the YouTubes. Doctor Who Unleashed 20 Years in Wales won't be on YouTube because it was it had a whole bunch of licensed music. And the second I saw that, because we somehow watched it, of course, but because we do a podcast about Doctor Who. But yeah, that's not going to be the one that goes onto YouTube. So sorry, everyone who was expecting to see it. It's basically just remember all these times where we made Doctor Who, and then we brushed over these other times that we made Doctor Who, so we could talk about these other times because there are people who were there when they made it. Are here. So
I still enjoyed it. I had a fun time watching it.
I did too. It
was really, really heartwarming to see that bit with Stefan Pawad and RTD. Mm-hmm. Just like the pride coming from 2 Welshmen standing in the middle of Cardiff Bay, talking about what Doctor Who has done for Cardiff and the production industry in general there and things like that, and it's a well-deserved victory lap, I think.
It is yeah. It was cool seeing Euros Linden, like Edward Thomas, I know.
Yeah, back from the dead as
original production designer of Doctor Who. Just like, my God.
They talked a lot about Eccleston, which of course you can't really avoid and I don't think they should. But for a guy who quit in a huff, it was kind of interesting to watch how they approached it, is what I'm trying to say. Knowing the background and all that. And I couldn't stop thinking about that clip from a convention where he goes, fire RTD, fire Jan Trander, fire lists all the people he doesn't like off.
Right.
To his credit, I mean, knowing that this was not that RTD has ever deviated from this stance, but knowing that this was a fairly recently shot thing, like he's still doing the right thing, the professional thing, whatever, just talking positively about Eccleston.
Yeah, I'll give him that.
So because he could be a bitter old bitter old person and
Yeah.
rag on Eccleston. I mean, this obviously that's not the venue for it, but he could do it and chooses not to.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
I mean, it took some time for Eccleston to make his opinion known too. Let's be honest. So.
Yeah, you know what? And even Eccleston praised the writing of RTD. You know, when I could say this because I interviewed him. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Oh no, what? Really?
Yeah, I
Well,
did
this
on
comes as a
stage.
complete shock.
On stage at Gallifrey 1, in 2020, I interviewed him and he said he praised the writing and all that stuff. So they can be bigger people about this stuff. Anyways, it was fun to see Billie Piper and David Tennant together again. Let's face it.
They seem to really actually enjoy each other's company. So
they had a nice little repartee. I like it when David Tennant's sort of explaining the history of the Daleks, and Billie Piper's like, "Oh, here we go."
I'll let you feel this one.
Yeah, I'll feel this one.
It is always fun to see these guys nerd the hell out. It's like I've seen what's his name, Henry Cavill, nerd out about Warhammer, and that guy knows what the hell he's talking about. It's just fun to see this ridiculously handsome actor who just dorks the hell out about this thing, and you can tell he actually really loves it. It's kind of cool.
Like Rod Stewart and model trains.
Exactly. Yeah. And Neil Young's that too. He's a trainist.
Is he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's a model train guy.
Oh, that's so awesome. I like it when nerds, when famous people have nerd hobbies. It's pretty great.
Just to put it out there, because we're gonna have to cross that bridge anyway. It was kind of sad to see. Like, he was kind of telling about this special. Based on who wasn't there as much as who was. So, I mean, I don't think they're ever going to get Eccleston to do a talking head piece like that, even for 30 seconds. But no Eccleston.
He'll do it for Big Finish. He'll do as he has done for Big Finish.
Yeah.
He's done a couple of Q&As for them. But
so long as he's contracted and paid to do so, I'm sure.
Fair enough.
Which fair enough, exactly. But one. As I mentioned before we started recording, one complaint about it was the time they spent talking about Blink lasted longer than they spent talking about the Capaldi era overall.
I mean, Blink is a seminal episode for a bunch of reasons, so that's fair enough.
Sure, it is. It definitely is. And then people also complaining about somehow the lack of Jenna Coleman specifically, despite the fact there was no Freema Agyeman, there was no...
Yeah, there's plenty of people to pick from.
There was no Tosin Cole, there was no Bradley Walsh, there was no John Bishop, there was no whoever else, no Alex Kingston.
It was not an exhaustive guest list.
And they only had an hour. I mean,
they picked and chose, like, can we get representatives at least from each era? And for the most part, they did. You do sort of lose. I mean, Bill was obviously only there for the final of the 3 seasons with Capaldi, isn't the?
Yeah.
So that does feel like a bit of a thing. But, Jenna Coleman might have been busy, and I honestly, I kind of like that Peter Capaldi is kind of taking a step back. Like when he's promoting other stuff, obviously people will ask him about Doctor Who. And he'll very happily oblige, anything like that. He still has thoughts and opinions, but he's very he's never coming back to Doctor Who. He's not doing Big Finish, and part of me is sad for that, but part of me also admires him for it. It just because it's kind of cool to sort of drop the mic and walk away from Doctor Who and never show up again for it and really talk about it as much, having said your say about it. But of course, he's probably now that we've had Chibnall and Moffat on the podcast and a whole bunch of other folks, Capaldi is, let's face it, he's the number one get, and he probably won't get
it. So is RTD, because he's the only other showrunner.
I suppose so. Given what we've said about his last 2 seasons,
I don't see it happening anytime soon.
But he'd be happy to come
I can't say I
along.
blame him, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But hey, if you're willing, RTD, to pop on, you know what? Hats off to Benjamin Cook in the commentary for the War Games in color, which is also coming out in North America on June 24th. Mark Ayres mentions it very early on in the commentary that there was a podcast interview with the film editor. Chris Hayden is never actually mentioned in the commentary, sadly, but they mentioned it a little bit, and then Benjamin Cook crams in there when the second HD clip comes up there. And he mentions, it was a Radio Free Skaro interview and something like that. And then Russell T Davies sort of moves on to another topic after that. But thanks, Benjamin, for singling us out, getting us a name check on an official Doctor Who commentary release.
To be fair.
Yeah, so that was nice of him. Speaking of Blu-rays, Savages came out recently. We forgot to talk about that. And the season 7 one came out here for us in North America as well.
Savages was good.
Did you watch all? I've only watched the documentaries on the Savages. What was the?
I did. Kat had lots of great things to say about the Wiles piece. It was good. I mean, I like
the Innes Lloyd piece, right?
Innes Lloyd piece. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry for
don't you get my hopes up.
Stephen a heart attack.
John Wiles documentary. What? No.
There's got to be something coming out eventually.
It's got to be.
But I had good things to say about the Innes Lloyd piece, and Toby's piece was very good. I enjoyed Richard Ashton kind of mugging for the camera.
I loved all the production code jokes in the intro to that.
Nerd.
How Savages has 2 A's because the serial double A.
Exactly.
Oh, God, I almost tuned out after that.
That's somehow that's a joke in there for you and Toby and nobody else.
Maybe it is.
Weirdos.
Toby's more into actors than production codes, but anyway, he probably knows.
But he still knows his codes to a good degree.
Oh yeah.
But no, it was good. I've always liked the Savages as a story. I thought they did especially toward the end. Spoilers for 1966, when the Doctor's consciousness is rubbed off on Jano. Mm-hmm. The animation was done very well to convey that kind of like cross-pollination of personalities.
Oh, cool. I haven't seen, like I said, I haven't seen the actual episode.
Yeah, neither have I. I've only watched half of the Toby documentary.
I've watched the VAM, and that's it so far.
Well, I mean, that's our usual modus operandi, isn't it?
For us here on this podcast, yeah, it is. Yeah.
And then for season 7, I don't know how far you are, Stephen. I've gone through the first 3 discs.
Right.
So Spearhead and Silurians, and then the related things. The on disc 3, if you haven't yet gotten there or watched the VAM yet, there's the about an hour and a half thing on Nicholas Courtney, which is fantastic.
I haven't watched that. For some reason, I had
so good.
I had it in my head that it was already on the Spearhead Blu-ray, but of course I was wrong. That was one about Carol and John, and so that's on the set. So I popped it in.
It's new. It's new to this set.
Yeah, I know. I popped it in. I popped into this to watch the Looking for Mac Hulk documentary, which is also great. And then just I've already seen that Nick Courtney one,
yep.
and then you told me about it. And right, well, so that'll be next. I've watched.
They go so out into the weeds to talk about his history, like in a very good way.
Yeah.
Like you get like like I texted the other day when I watched it, like Giles Brandreth is on there.
I don't know who that is.
He's a former Tory MP and involved in like theater acting.
That's a very British name is what that is.
Yeah.
He's a very British person.
Well, there you go.
But like Giles Brandreth shows up because he did something with Courtney in like the 50s or something such, whatever era it was, and just that was not a face I expected to see there. Or Daniel Abineri, John Abineri's son, talking about Courtney, like just faces I never thought I would see in a thing, and there they were. Because I had no knowledge of those, relationships or professional endeavors, whatever. But no, it's great. The Mac Hulk one is quite good as well.
Yeah. I like the Looking For series. Those are always good. And that naturally, I mean, after that, I watched the first 5 episodes of Ambassadors of Death because I love Ambassadors of Death. So I watched that for the 800th time. This time in Blu-ray.
That's next when I get to disc 4.
I love it. I know you go disc by disc. I go, what am I feeling today? Let's pop this in there. Let's do this one today. That's the way I do it, which is usually how I miss things, like the Nick Courtney thing. But that's fine.
Definitely go back and carve an hour and a half out of your schedule and watch the Nick, or even in the background. It's fantastic. If nothing else, one takeaway is you hated being called Nick.
Oh, that's interesting.
Nicholas, it was all right then. Well, I mean, I never met the man, so I never got.
I did once briefly.
Yeah. Spokane. No, is the Edmonton one? It's Edmonton one. Warren went to Spokane.
Yes, but I didn't.
I met him at.
Think I met him.
Oh no, you would have met him. That's right. I have an autograph from Nicholas Courtney because of you, Chris. You sent me a thing, and I don't know where that is now. It's somewhere up on the bookshelf behind me, I think. But Nicholas Courtney from 2008 or 2009. I can't remember when it was that you went to.
I think that's when I mailed you guys like Radio Times or something.
I think you might have done. Yeah. God, you cared so much more about us back then.
I remember meeting Ian Martyr and Anthony Ainley, and that must have been in Edmonton Because it wasn't Spokane.
No.
Maybe it was.
Ian Marter
Not
died
here.
in 86. So
Then it must have been Spokane. Yeah, it
Yeah.
must have been Spokane. I do have the
too, but-
Sontaran Experiment autographed by him. So
yeah.
Yep, not many people can say that.
No, not a lot of people can say that. Anyway, please don't take it that we're like singing glowing praises about Blu-ray releases of shows from 50 odd years ago compared to our,
that seems really out of character.
are.
Yeah.
compared to our diatribe to new Doctor Who. But you know, they do
as
great
those-
work on those Blu-ray sets. We always
God, they do.
we are always keen
As I
to
was saying
sing
the
their
other day,
praises.
sorry
Yeah.
to cut it out.
No,
cut you
no
off.
problem. No.
As I was saying the other day, like the Blu-ray for Spearhead, I didn't have a Blu-ray player when it came out, so I just never bothered buying it, especially since I had already bought it twice on DVD because they had the standard and the special edition and then the Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
So watching Spearhead on Blu-ray for the first time, it was it's a revelation is what it is.
Right.
Like, it just looks shot in 1969. It looked amazing.
Yeah, it's such a. I mean, there's also a couple great doc. Terror in the Suburbs that the Garriers put together, hosted by Matthew Sweet, is a great look at like Doctor Who and like just British television going into the suburbs in the early 70s and sort of that becoming a setting for so many things, like Monty Python for crying out loud and everything else. That's a good one. Paul Vanessa does one on called Lucky 13. It's based sort of around Apollo 13, happening literally around the same time as Ambassadors of Death was airing and everything. They have a lot of archived James Burke footage.
Oh yeah, I remember watching Connections in the 80s. And it's an amazing show. Like it was on PBS at the time.
Well, Warren, when the price drops on Amazon or wherever you buy your Blu-rays for season 7, get it if only just for that Lucky 13 documentary. It's really good too.
All right, done. But yeah, it's way too expensive right now. So
it is. Yeah, it's like $80 or something on Amazon right now. I'm a sucker. I will literally pay any price for these sets.
Of course you will.
Because they are awesome. And you know, it's just just thinking about, because I think we talked about Doctor Who sort of needing a bit of a refresh after the Disney era, and like then season 7 drops on your doorstep, and you realize that. We see the police box in Spearhead, and that's it. And Ambassadors of Death, the consoles outside of the top, like just so much stuff
Inferno.
and Inferno. There's so much stuff that we just take for granted. Like Doctor Who. Oh, okay, we're gonna make it in color now. There's gonna be half the episodes basically. He's stranded on Earth. We don't use the TARDIS anymore. When we do, the TARDIS console is outside of the thing for some reason,
which freaked me out.
There's no companions per se, but a team of like scientists. Like it's such a like I said, we take it as read now because it's part of the mythology. But like, if that was to happen today, if we were to have like 6 seasons of New Who, and all of a sudden like Capaldi decides no, he's stranded on Earth, and that's the first time that and in a way he kind of is, because series 10, he's like a teacher at a university, and I think that was kind of cool. I kind of like that little running.
Isn't that kind of what
theme
Torchwood
before I
is? Except for all the sexy times that they don't have in, back in the day.
Yeah, I'm curious what kind of if you were to reboot a format of Doctor Who, what you'd even do nowadays. But
don't do that. I like it. It
don't do the
fits
unit thing.
1970,
Yeah,
but
it does.
Do whatever the new interesting thing would be.
Yeah.
I mean, part of that was based on kind of James Bond and that kind of changing attitudes and tastes, I guess. And so I guess you do the same now. What that would be, I have no idea. But yeah, don't repeat the past. For the love of God, please.
Don't repeat the reboots. That's the one thing you don't do. Yeah.
And please don't have lines like, haven't you heard of women's emancipation?
yeah. Don't go through second wave feminism again. We don't need to just treat that as a new thing. Maybe Doctor Who should land in the 1960s and be kind of like the Fantastic Four. Apparently, is going to be the movie, and it's like going to be set in the 1960s or something like that.
You allow me to digress into Marvel nonsense. It's going to be in an alternate world, and then they'll show up in the Marvel world, presumably in these later films. But in this, because of all the stuff they've invented and all their scientific achievements, the world is actually kind of united and at peace, and everybody gets along. So that'll be an interesting thing to see unravel when Galactus shows up.
Lionel Hutz will be terrified of that sort of thing.
Yeah. But I think that's an interesting take, that it's like, well, because these guys are scientific geniuses and pulled all this stuff off, the world is actually a clearly better place in the 1960s, which is, it's at least visually interesting to look at.
Can I go on a small little Marvel rant?
Sure.
Go for it.
So, recently bought the 4K Spider-Man trilogy, or Spider-Man trilogy on 4K. The Tom Holland one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I literally had to think which Spider-Man trilogy.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, Garfield only had the 2, so he wouldn't have the trilogy.
Right.
So still easy with 2.
The Timothy
still easy with
Dalton
2 other choices
of Spider-Man. Yeah,
but and I had to look it up to see where Holland first showed up in like MCU stuff, and apparently it was
Civil War,
Captain America, Civil War. But it's kind of annoying to sit there and watch the first film of what you know as a series, whether they knew it at the time or not. They probably, they would have contracted Holland for however many films. Anyway, you go back, you watch this thing, is movie 1 out of 3, except it's not because it's MCU. So movie 1 was actually
Civil War.
It was actually Captain America: Civil War,
aka the Book of Boba Fett for Marvel, essentially.
Much better than Book of Boba Fett, actually. The films go.
Yeah. And then in this introductory film, you have an already established character. He's getting within 5 minutes of the thing. Of the thing starting. He's getting a brand new spider suit from Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Like it's just like full, not quite full bore, but darn near. And it's like, do I have to go back and watch Civil War? We'll go back, watch Civil War, and get all the establishing stuff.
Oh,
okay.
I don't want to do that.
No.
Counterpoint. Civil War is actually not that bad. And also, you know what they didn't do? They didn't do yet again Bitten by a Radioactive Spider origin story we don't need to see. We do not, and they didn't do that, thankfully. Also, complete side note, I didn't think Andrew Garfield's films were all that great. And he's a lesser Spider-Man in those movies. But in the last one, No Way Home, I think it's called, he's actually the MVP of Spider-Man of the 3 of them. He's actually got an arc, and he's kind of great in that movie.
Let me tell you, as someone who has never seen any of the other Spider-Man films, watching that Spider-Man, the third one, the 3 Spider-Man, was basically like probably a new Doctor Who viewer wondering who the hell this
absolutely
CG dog was at the end of season 1, or indeed Omega's 3-minute cameo at the end of
fair
season
enough.
2.
Absolutely, you're not wrong about that.
Completely out to line. I don't know what's going on here. I have no idea who these people are. I gather they were probably Spider-Men, but when they did little things here, like little hat tips to plot points, no idea. That movie was completely unaffecting to me. So this is the danger of bringing it back to Doctor Who. This is the danger of like just completely relying on lore and
any
past
franchise
stuff.
that does this.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Any franchise, eventually you just collapse under your own weight of.
Yeah, I mean that's why they do stuff
history.
like multiverses to kind of work around that. Although it just adds to the weight.
And then they just bring it all together at the end anyway. Think, imagine if. What if we did this?
Comic books DC particularly ran into this all the time and keeps running into it. That's why they did Crisis on Infinite Earths in '86, because they were so top heavy with nonsense mythology. And then Marvel eventually, every long running comic book series has to do this eventually because they've got 50 odd years of lore that they have to reset.
Yeah. I wonder if, so let's say there's change from the top down for Doctor Who, like no more Disney, no more RTD, like just for the sake of argument.
Sure.
Whoever does come on board, Tony Gilroy, whoever.
I think he's the last thing he wants to do is more sci-fi, probably.
I don't think we'll get Tony to it. I know what you mean, though. I know what you mean.
Yes, or him protesting how Andor is not a left-wing show.
Yeah. Armando Ncuti at doing Doctor Who. Capaldi returns.
Don't tempt me with a good time. Yeah.
Yeah, the death of Stalin, you can have a whole different feel to it. Anyway, like, I wonder if the comic book industry is a good or bad source for how to reboot.
Oh, it's a bad source.
Because obviously they've had, successes and failures.
DC kept rebooting their universe over and over and over and over again in like the mid-2000s. Like they kept getting it wrong. And I think they've kind of righted the ship now. But comic book experts would know better than me. But from what I could tell from a bit of a remove, Marvel isn't as bad for this. But DC was they had this thing called the New 52, which didn't work. And then they had 3 or 4 other things that didn't work. And then I think they finally brought it all together. Maybe I can stop paying attention. But
how many Batman origin films do we have already?
All of them.
8,
so
8,
I mean
10,
whatever the number is, that's too many.
We all know the origins. We don't need the origins. Please,
I know.
Stop with the damn origins.
Well, it's funny when you look at RTD and you think like he's the last watcher of terrestrial TV in the UK, and it's like so much of his like thought process is basically because he has EastEnders on his TV 24/7. You know, like it's soap operas. That's his thing. It's not Doctor Who. It's soap operas. Look at who's returning from the dead. Like Dirty Den returning from the dead 30 years after the fact. Oh, we could do that for Doctor Who. You know, that's his mentality.
Didn't he get a start there, like in Korea or something?
Yeah. I don't know if he did, but he certainly watched it. I don't know what we might be mixing him and Phil Collinson's career together.
Also, he worked on R2D. Worked on Corey. Yeah.
To be completely fair, I look down on all these member berries, and then when Susan shows up, I freak out like everybody else. How much better am I?
But that initial, and then you realize, well, wait a minute, they didn't do anything. Which brings me to another thing here. Speaking of Susan, so there's a noted insider on Twitter. I admittedly had not heard of him. But he has like 350,000 followers, and it's on Twitter, so take all this with a grain of salt. But, apparently he's an insider with a whole bunch of stuff. I was like skimming through a lot of his timeline to see, okay, where is his sources on this? But he had some original stuff from some insider dirt from how season 2 originally ended before they did a reshoot with Gatwa's Regeneration and all that nonsense. And so I'm just going to read this, quoting him, his little 3-tweet thread, if you will, that said the original ending of Doctor Who Season 2 before the reshoots was the Doctor, Ruby, Belinda, etc. all having a big party. Think Amy and Rory's wedding. Everybody's dancing, and the Vlinks is a DJ. Now, that one promo image of Belinda in the dress and the Doctor dancing, it says like Mayday in the background, I think it was, or something like that. That tracks already. I could totally see the Vlinks being a DJ, because why not?
I want to see the Vlinks being a DJ.
Yeah. Susan is seen watching them from afar, which would have been the cliffhanger leading into season 3. She's dressed in a gray, like a Five Doctors-esque look, gray trench coat, where they've tried to tie this into the Five Doctors, overlooking the party that the Doctor and company are at. She will have been standing with Poppy, to who Susan says, "Let's go, Mom." And then we cut to the credits. And this would have been explored in season 3, but of course all that was shelved once the Regeneration happened and they crammed in the Poppy storyline. So would that have been better? Would that have been better to tie that in as Poppy being basically Susan's mom?
Well, it would have been an ending.
We had an ending.
We did have an ending.
Yeah, an ending, I guess.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know the validity of all this, where it comes from, or anything like that. But it honestly, it does sound quite plausible, because Susan disappears from the broadcast season 8. She's not even mentioned in it, and I feel like there's a lot of stuff that was cut and pasted and moved around and covered up to cover up for the absence of that, because it was all tying into not Regeneration.
Who it was on Blue Sky, but he said something along the lines of, all this feels like while you're watching it, they are pasting over a bunch of screw ups or circumstances they had no control over.
Yeah. Kind of like Flux. Kind of like the end of Flux, really.
Yeah.
And indeed, The Power of the Doctor, which is like, if you watch the broadcast episode and look at the script, which is freely available on the BBC script site, it's completely different. It's just everything's moved around. The scenes are rearranged to an alarming degree from the final scripted form to the actual finished broadcast version. TV is chaos, I think, is what we're learning.
Of course it is, yeah.
Sure.
Complete and utter chaos.
Look at 1968-9 with production being, what was it, a week, 10 days ahead of broadcast?
And that season 4 of the Troughton years, yeah.
That exhausts really me bad. Just hearing that.
Yeah, man. I mean, one of my old British telly YouTube accounts have been throwing up the existing episodes of Paul Temple. Paul Temple, like, oh my God, like some of those shows of Paul Temple. Paul Temple's a BBC/German co-production, I think, 69 to 71, and like there are entire episodes shot in Malta. Like, there's so much money being spent on this show, but Alan Bromley was the one who was producing the first season of it, and he was botching the job, quite frankly, which is why they plucked Derek Sherwin off of Doctor Who to work on that, which then allows Barry Letts to come in on Doctor Who. So the two are tied together a little bit, but just a transition from black and white to color, and like all this chaos that was happening in 69, 70 is just.
What is this fascination with Malta, by the way? Which is two shows that I know of. But it's still like the fascination with sitcoms and quicksand in the 70s. Quicksand, the danger of quicksand has never been overstated as it was in the 1970s.
maybe it's super cheap to go to shoot there or something.
I guess, yeah.
Color me ignorant for this. Is Malta's part of the Commonwealth, right? Was Malta?
I do not know.
Malta,
but also it looks nice.
Man.
Like from everything I've seen, it's a great place to shoot. So
yeah, like I'm just thinking there must be a Malta thing in the UK because of Sandbaggers, obviously, and this show and a couple other shows I think shot in Malta as well.
Well, and sometimes regions just get trendy. There were a bunch of shows or movies set in Switzerland for some reason, probably tax breaks, like in the 60s, right? So it just kind of depends. It's like
Vancouver.
You see a lot of Turkish Airlines because Turkish Airlines is sponsoring movies, right? Essentially.
Yeah, maybe new Doctor Who will be like a Malta co-production. It'll be like suddenly Doctor Who's at all these sunny locations. It's like, why does everything look like a Turkish prison from Midnight Express?
Never discount the power of crass commercialism and editorial interference, which we'll get to later with a Rachel Talalay clip.
Yes.
According to the Commonwealth.org, the 3 European countries involved in the Commonwealth are Cyprus, Malta, and the UK.
There we are. This is what I like about the show is that I will throw in a little nugget, asking a question, and I know Chris, with your brain, the way that it works, will instantly need to figure it out, and
which is fine. Then we figure things out.
You usually research it while Warren and I banter across. This is how you do 1,018 episodes, kids.
Also, they wouldn't shoot in Cyprus because I believe Canadian troops were in Cyprus at the time, keeping things calm.
Cyprus has been and
well, that was the 80s, maybe. I could be wrong about that.
No, it was 70s because that's how the film canisters of episodes 4 and 5 of the Reign of Terror were destroyed. That's why I know about the Cyprus War.
I knew that there would be some spurious Doctor Who connection.
Yeah, they were there. They were destroyed in the Civil War, which is obviously at most the second.
The reason for the Civil War was those film cans.
Give us those Reign of Terror film cans, damn it! Edward Brayshaw's performance must be seen.
Okay, moving swiftly along.
Gallifroogle one. Yeah, what you got? What do you got?
I was just going to say I wouldn't mind seeing Frederick Yeager's performance from The Savages, but
that too was that in Cyprus? We'll never know. Thanks to the war. Steph Diwali is appearing at Gallifrey 1. Steph Diwali, of course, played Anita, wonderfully so in the Joy to the World and the Reality War, is going to be at Gallifrey 1 in February time, so that's pretty cool. She was great. She was actually great in both those, especially in Joy to the World.
Yes.
Especially Joy to the World, yeah, exactly.
Quite liked her performance.
Still not a big fan of what they did with her, with the almost ever-present longing for the Doctor in that way.
Yeah.
That the character turned into.
But hey, that ain't her fault. She was great at it.
No. She was just reading the words on the page.
Yeah, was indeed.
Very well at that.
Yep. There was a season 2 epilogue, which I think dropped like literally an hour before. I think it was dropped during our live stream, essentially, which is why we missed it. But it just had a summing up of season 2, and then
fluff.
Russell
I would call it fluff.
That's true, but the final 30 seconds or so, Russell T Davies says about the war between the land and the sea. It's coming sooner than you think, which is what he said about season 2 of Doctor Who as well. Which did appear like literally 2 months earlier than season 1 did in the calendar year. So that leads me to think that it's going to be happening this year. When that's going to be, I don't know. Hopefully in the fall. Feels like an autumn-looking show. The war between the land and the sea. So
I'm sure Disney's got a chunk of stuff they want to throw at us in the summer anyway. So
yeah.
What would they have on?
I don't know. Disney stuff that I don't care about, but there'll be plenty of it.
18 Marvel shows and 4 animated Star Wars.
They're paring back on the Marvel shows. That's what Bob Iger said.
Yeah, Bob Iger's really pulling back on those. What is there even a Marvel show coming out? Like they're Daredevils. That's
Ironheart is. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Couldn't tell you exactly when.
Yeah.
They're still going ahead with season 2 of is it season 2 of Red Witch or is it Vision with his own?
Vision Quest is coming at some point. I've lost. This stuff shows up when it shows up, and I watch it or I don't, basically. Yeah. But they did say they're scaling down considerably. They did think they diluted. I think he actually said, I think we diluted the brand by doing this. Now, it was a pandemic. Really? To be fair, what else are you going to do? But yeah.
Strikes and all that too. Yeah, everything had something. And we had nothing to do back in the early days of the pandemic other than to watch new things. So, hey, let's commission all this stuff. Oh, we got to pay for it
Falcon and Winter Soldier wasn't great, but it was on during the pandemic and it was something to do. So,
well. Yeah, and plus they have Bluey. The Globe and Mail put a big thing. Had a story for some reason about Bluey, and they said in it that it was the most watched show in the United States last year. Bluey, which you understand why Disney was so insistent on getting it, even paying for a couple seasons of Doctor Who in order to do so.
I wonder what else was in that deal. Like stuff I probably never heard of, but still, I bet you there was not just Doctor Who. I bet you something else got shoehorned in there too.
Well, I don't know what else BBC Studios had the rights for, and they had Bluey and they had Doctor Who. I don't know what else shows up on Disney Plus for that to be there, but hey, maybe they should yank Bluey away from Disney Plus and say, listen, what do you want for it, Netflix? Do you want Bluey? You want Bluey? How about 3 more seasons of Doctor Who? What do you think of that?
Sounds like the kind of show Bob Iger would probably still try to hold on to.
That's probably true.
If it was the most watched in the country.
In the U.S. Amanda, Chris, you mentioned this last week. Amanda-Rae Prescott had a article on the Den of Geek with a critique of the 15th Doctor's era. Both of you had a chance to look at this, right? I think.
Because I'd seen her post on Facebook that she was going to write something about people of color and their reaction to Gatwa's departure. So she has written it, and Den of Geek is who she, I think, primarily now.
Yes, yeah, she is.
If not exclusively. Anyway, so yeah, she published her piece, and it talks. It's a lot broader than I realized it was going to be, discussing the whole of the Gatwa era, not just his departure, but it's a very, very good and well thought out think piece, talking about just some of the. I don't want to dwell on the negative necessarily, but some of the problems with like seeming like he was, pushed out the door, and some people of color kind of took that the wrong way, if that's what happened. Things like the rogue character being, a gay man stuck in hell, which was right. For a show written by a queer man, seems a little bit harsh.
Allow me to dwell for a moment. She also points out, and rightly so, I didn't think of this because I'm some dumb white guy, but the fact that the 15th Doctor just kind of takes off, which maybe reinforces the black guy as a deadbeat dad trope, and then also you've got a single mother trope with Belinda, and I was like, I didn't think about that because I'm a dumb white guy. You know who else is a dumb white guy who probably didn't think about that? RTD. And one of us is in charge of a television show.
Yeah, it takes me back to when the finale for Star Trek Deep Space Nine, where Sisko goes off to become basically a god or something like that. It's tough to explain the end of Deep Space Nine in one sentence, but he was Avery Brooks played the best captain in Star Trek history. Don't at me. That's was very keen to show that he did not want to see like he was abandoning his son Jake in the show.
No, and because throughout the series, he was very much so wanted to have. I want this to be a positive father-son relationship. Yeah. You don't see that on TV, and it worked.
And but he was
always lobbying for that, as I recall.
He was, and yeah, you're right. And the whole Martha factor, basically, like Belinda basically became the underwritten successor to the young blonde white companion that pervades over the season that is supposed to feature Belinda. Like there's that sort of thing too, and of course the killing of the younger person of color Ronnie and leaving the older white Ronnie to run off and make her to Ronnie's joke. That's.
Let's not forget how many times Ruby's mom got done dirty, which is quite a few. Like I'm gonna rat out this kid and that kid. I'm like, what the hell is going on here, RTD? What? Come on. Yeah. Anyway, not to fall back into what we're doing last week.
Yeah. True. Anyway, it's a good piece.
But anyway, it's links in the show notes. It's well worth a 5-minute read, and some good takeaways there. I think. Dumb white guy. I didn't even think about the connotation of the South Asian Ronnie being being consumed or whatever is going to end up happening with her, and the old white one escaping.
Well, that's why it's good to have articles like this around it to remind dumbasses like me what's going on.
Or even the fact that we had the fugitive Doctor in there as another person of color, like,
and there was no fulfillment of that, it was just a cameo.
And the fact that we don't get another person of color Doctor next, although obviously we don't know that yet.
Children in Need 2025.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to be? Yeah.
Well, that's November, so hey, you never know. There's time to shoot something.
And it'll be around the time of the 62nd anniversary of the show. So
Oh, yeah. The historic 62nd anniversary. I mean, hey, Coronation started in 1962.
After all, that's how Coronation started.
Street. Yeah.
1960.
Yeah. Oh, what 60? What started in 62?
December 60.
That's right. I'm just trying to think of connotations like, ooh, the Doctor Who's always been about children. I said, no, Russell T Davies, the Doctor has never been about children. What are you talking about, for God's sake? Anyway, enough about that. What else are we talking about? Oh, there's a tour of the Ronnie's Bone Pal. Speaking of the dumb white guys, Gavin Conrad Clark, Jonah Hauer-King is an actor playing that guy. That's not Jonah's not the dumb white guy.
And he's apparently a nice fellow. So
apparently he's a nice fellow. Anyway, does a tour of the Ronnie's Bone Palace. That also came out last week. Also, some very enterprising young YouTuber called Doctor Who Fan 1234 put together a brilliant little Dugga Doo jumps into the Doctor's time stream YouTube video. It's 80 seconds, which is the perfect length for a joke thing like this.
Very well integrated. Into
so
the episodes.
well integrated in
like
all
the kids are all right. The video editing kids are all right.
Yeah, all aspects of the Doctor's time stream. It is so. I don't want to spoil all the little Easter eggs that are in there, but it is hilarious. It was so
you caught me before I did just that. So thank you.
Yeah, because I don't want to spoil that for some people. There's some great stuff in there. It's 80 seconds. The brilliant, like honestly, that is the perfect thing when you're making a thing like somebody. Oh, look at this, and it's like a 10-minute video. Then no. If it's a joke, you make it, you hit your point, and you get out of there, and that's exactly what this video does. It's so great. So, links in the show notes. Plus, it's Dugga Doo. How long could you listen to Dugga Doo? For me, 58 minutes. That one time when the live stream showed up was my.
Oh dear. Just in this, as I look at the loaded up link to YouTube for that on the sidebar, there's a Doctor Who and the Dugga Doos in brackets reconstruction. So I'll put a link in the show notes to that as well. But it's. AI-ish, if not full on AI. Anyway, but it's like Stephen and Sarah Kingdom and the First Doctor and Dugga Doos, and it's quite cute as well.
All right,
but AI-ish.
Yeah, probably.
Unfortunate.
Frowning upon that then.
AI voices, it says at the very least. But
all right,
frowning upon that. And we prefer original content like Rachel Talalay, Doctor Who director, legend, of course, has her own YouTube channel, and she hasn't done one of these in a while, where she says how I shot this. And she talks about how she originally shot this one shot, this intricately planned and filmed, and they actually filmed this for, what was the show again?
Without a Trace.
Without a Trace, back in 2002.
Went for years and years, as I recall.
I don't recall it. I guess I wasn't paying attention to TV that much by that point because I was, laid off from TV. Why would I want to watch it on my own? Anyway, there was an intricately planned shot where they have witness explaining the scene and then panning over and shooting that and then going back. It was a brilliantly shot one shot. Incorporating both flashbacks and the current day stuff that was being shot. And she shot it. Everyone was happy with it. And then when the editor and producer got a hold of it, they completely chopped it up and added these weird white flashes and stuff to indicate that it was a flashback. They basically dumbed it down and ruined the shot. And anyway, Talalay posted about how they did that, how they ruined it, how they ruined that shot.
Well, I mean, she has gone on, has gone on record on this very program about how in the U.S. directing an episode, once that last shot is shot, that's it, you're out. You don't have any say in the editing or final cut or anything like that. Versus the UK, where she had so much more involvement with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you can really tell in the Moffat era. Certainly, that was. Heaven Sent. We are approaching the 10th anniversary of Heaven Sent, by the way.
Good golly, I just aged even more there.
I know. Come on. Coming up in the fall like that. Yeah. I originally had an idea of doing maybe we will. We got a lot of time to fill now, waiting for a new season of Doctor Who. Maybe we'll do a 10th anniversary of Heaven Sent thing or something like that.
I'm down with that.
We'll see. I mean, we've already had Rachel Talalay come on this very podcast to do a director's commentary. I don't know how we can top that, so we might just have to say, go back and listen to that.
Yeah,
because it's so great, and she's so great with her time. So we're always happy to plug her YouTube pursuits because she is a visionary director that we have been lucky to have in Doctor Who.
And just a lovely human being.
Very wonderful human being. Books. There's some books coming. Who Me by David J. Howe, his little Doctor Who memoir. The first outside of Tellus Publishing book that David J. Howe has written in 27 years is coming in what, October or something like that. So yeah, his little memoir about his life in Doctor Who. It's coming.
October 9th.
October 9th, the 60th anniversary of the original broadcast of Mission to the Unknown. Yep. I remember that broadcast date for some reason.
Well,
all right.
You're you. That's why you remember that.
Any of you surprised? I'm not surprised.
No.
Speaking of anniversaries, March the 5th next year, which is the 21st anniversary of the leak of Rose, sees the release of 2 paperback versions of Rob Sherman novelizations of Jubilee and The Chimes of Midnight, both big finishes. Those are coming out in hardback earlier, right, Chris? Wasn't that like November?
They're coming out in hardback
like
earlier. I don't have the date to hand, but I did look up that it's November this year for the hardbacks in Canada, at any rate. I assume U.S. as well.
Yeah, probably. North America and all that stuff. Okay, so, well, if you prefer paperback, those are coming out in March from Rob Shearman, noted author Rob Shearman.
And another fine fellow.
Yeah, another fine fellow. Also coming this year, September 4th, the audiobook version of Doctor Who and the Loch Ness Monster, a.k.a. Terror of the Zygons, is written by Terrence Dix and read by John Colshaw. That's coming out September the 4th. So there you go.
Much like how when you're a kid, you get mad when somebody calls it Doctor Who as opposed to the Doctor. I remember as a kid being annoyed that it wasn't called the proper name, and now I kind of love that it's not called the proper name.
Yeah.
The Behind the Sofa for Doctor Who and the Solarians. I don't know if you've gotten to that yet, Stephen. But
no, I've not.
Behind the Sofas are quite often amongst my favorite bits of the Blu-ray sets.
Mm-hmm.
And the exuberance and detail and whatnot to which Matthew Waterhouse talks about, the fact that there's Doctor Who in the title, and he's not the only one to do it as well. It's a piece of trivia that I think all the participants were given.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Matthew Waterhouse has just got this like manic intensity, and it's a sight to see. I don't want to say anything was involved, but I don't know if I'd be surprised.
Wow, God.
I would like to imply it though.
Yeah. Interesting.
Feel free to infer what you will.
Yeah.
Folks.
One thing from Big Finish 2 was some artwork, so we can critique that to see what's going on. The Sixth Doctor and Perry return in the Sixth Doctor Adventures Bad Terms box set comprising 2 90-minute full cast audio adventures coming out in August of this year. There's Doctor Who. Looks like he's dressed as a schoolmaster with a cat badge on there still.
Yeah, could be.
Perry's a pirate.
Pirate Perry. Those are 2 words I like a lot when they go together.
With a
David Lloyd is some naval
officer guy.
Sir Kenneth Rushworth.
Yeah, not related.
God, that's the most officer of the British Navy name ever.
Kenneth Rushworth.
Kenneth Rushworth, if you please.
And it looks like giant jelly babies flying out of the TARDIS.
Oh, fascinating. What could it all mean? Find out in August with Doctor Who, The Sixth Doctor Adventures, Bad Terms. We love stories. There we go. Finally, before we hit some fluid links here, Apprentice Hancock, legendary Doctor Who actor, Apprentice Hancock, of course also famous for Space 1999, has passed away at the age of 83. He was in 4 Doctor Who stories, usually playing jerks.
Just watched him in Spearhead.
The one and only role where he wasn't a jerk. He played a reporter in Spearhead from Space. Also, of course, was in Planet of the Daleks, Planet of Evil, the Reboss Operation, pronouncing it as Catacombs. I've never heard anyone else call it Catacombs. I interviewed Apprentice Hancock on stage at Gallifrey one year, I remember.
2017, I think is when
2017 was when he was there, yeah.
Was there.
Yeah, so that was sad, but a heck of a career, and livened up some Doctor Who episodes in his time. So So.
He definitely brought a unique take to certain things.
He did indeed.
Which was great.
A flesh-eating tentacle. I just remember his delivery of that line in Planet of the Daleks was, delivered with such grit and so forth. But yeah. He shall be missed, but thank goodness for home video and being able to throw in Rebus at will or something foolish. Erica loves that. So, yeah. Anyway, that is it for the news. Hey, everyone, let's talk about some fluid links.
Do you know what this is? Fluid Link K57.
Ah, yes, of course, the fluid link.
What's a fluid link?
No idea.
It has been a day since we've I've heard that lyric, that theme song. We haven't done one for quite a while. I know we do the Fluid Links Advent calendar, stuff like that, which has a different theme. So yeah, we asked you, the listeners, for the questions, comments about season 2, and stuff like that, and so you responded in spades. So let's talk about those with the first fluid link. This comes from Chris Hankerson on Blue Sky. What classic or recurring enemy, villain or monster, should Ncuti's Doctor have faced? Which one should he have faced? Obviously, he faced Sutekh and Omega.
Which one should he have faced?
Well, maybe which one should he have faced instead?
Going for a play on words there.
Yeah.
Which one should he?
Should Ncudi. Yep.
Yes. Anyway,
which
it's obvious. It's too obvious to say Daleks and Cybermen, right?
Right. I mean, he never faced either of them. That's a shame. No. I bet you probably one or both were the plan for season 3. Hence the late rewrite of throwing in the Day of the Daleks thing, just to say that we got a Dalek and a Gatwa episode.
I wouldn't mind seeing him facing off against the Weeping Angels, because it's always cool to have Weeping Angels.
They're always great.
Been enough time, like you can't overuse them, which I think Moffat actually did near the end there with the Angels Take Manhattan or whatever the hell it's called. But then they were actually pretty decent in Jodie's series. I think if they were in the 3rd series that never happened, that's a right amount of time, and I would love to see their take with Ncuti and Weeping Angels.
I've got one that works.
Okay.
I really wish Ncuti's Doctor had actually properly faced Omega.
Actual Omega,
and
not this weird,
not this thing we got.
This monstery. I like eating this Jabba the Hutt, basically.
Yeah.
of Omegas.
Yeah.
I think if they're going to do Omega, instead of like bringing back Omega into this world, they should have gone in. Well, no, I guess they did that in 3 Doctors. The World of Antimatter. Sorry, they already did that. They already did that.
They've already kind of done both sides of that coin with Arcade Infinity in our reality. Yeah.
Oh.
I say that facetiously. I don't really care if Omega had come back or not. I think we would be quite fine had his name never been said again.
Yeah.
Nothing against the character, great character, especially Stephen Thorne. But we didn't need it. Especially, in the presence of other time lords, time ladies.
I wonder if, I sort of alluded to this at the time, guessing who, the leader of the gods or the pantheon or something like that. And I wonder if this still is yet to play out, but what if like the White Guardian and the Black Guardian, this feels like that's like the ultimate destination of where all this pantheon of the gods is sort of going, And
they never really delivered on that, so yeah.
So
or some trick by the Eternals, perhaps. But yeah, I think talked about last week, it'd be nice. It would have been nice to have some sort of wrap up of the Pantheon stuff in Reality War, but because we didn't get that, does that mean that there's still more to come? I don't know.
Here's something I'd like to see, and I've beaten this drum before, but have Draconians, have the Ice Warriors when they're not the bad guys, like in that one Peladon story, which I always thought was really interesting that they weren't the bad guys, and then have some new person that you've created or, whatever, like a group of people. Yeah. And those are the guys that the Doctor helped, the Draconians are helping him. All these guys who used to be villains but aren't really anymore, that I'd love to see that kind of thing with Ncuti, or the new Doctor, Billie Piper too, whatever.
It is honestly shocking that Draconians have not appeared.
I mean, it's not easy to do that makeup, but it's such great makeup, and you can do even so much better now. And they're just cool, interesting characters. Like
they really are. Yeah.
Think of what Neil Gordon could do with a task like that.
As you say, they were already great. Those are such a great design.
And they'd be great guys just to kind of show up every now and again, like the Shadow of Proclamation, those kind of guys. Like, they're helping him out or they're in his way or something like that. They don't have to be like the focus, but they can still be in there as a race of beings that are interesting.
Of just believable non-Earth species in Doctor Who. Yeah.
I might be misremembering, but they were kind of like this political force. That's one thing I always loved about Star Wars is you'd have like these dudes with 3 eyes and a horn, and they'd be like, and they'd have an ambassador, right? And it also has some guy who was like running a smuggling ship. They ran the gamut of people. It was interesting.
Yeah. Draconians. What are you going to say, Chris? Sorry, we cut you off there a little bit with Draconian talk.
Don't even remember anymore. Nothing important, I'm sure.
I kind of like Draconians. I mean, honestly, who they should have brought no one. They shouldn't have brought anyone of them back, because maybe we wouldn't have sort of been disappointed by their eventual reveal as Susan Technology and a CG dead dog.
I don't know if it would be a good thing or a bad thing, but I'd like to, if they can fully automate them. There are a few like robot type villains who were, people in outfits back in the day that they could possibly do better with, like
Caldor, maybe,
like the Quarks or the Crotons or the War Machines,
right?
I mean, I'd love to see the Quarks come back.
The problem with the War Machines
do something fun with them.
The RTD temptation to go over the top of the War Machines would be too strong, and they would just be multi-limbed things tearing everything apart, and it would be like, okay, there's enough of that.
There'd be a giant one. They build it up, and they'd be like the one that's basically the size of the unit.
The
tower.
Bone Beasts would basically be
War Machines. And they'd find 8-story tall cardboard boxes for it to smash and everything.
But what if Wotan is fighting the unit building? That I would like to see.
Wotan, building battle.
Exactly.
Wotan animates the post office tower, the BT tower.
Exactly. Yes. That's what I mean.
And that takes on the unit building.
You get a kaiju fight between buildings.
And then the Doctor realizes, wait a second, I recognize that post office tower. That looks like a sonic screwdriver. And then he does something, and he turns the Wotan tower into a sonic screwdriver. Don't laugh at me. This is something he's thought about.
That's a very RTD ending.
Very RTD ending, and then he uses that to win the day or something, and blow up the Death Star thing, or go live happily ever on the planet of the teddy bears. But yeah,
wow, I love that tailing off into nothing.
To quote Peter Capaldi from The Thick of It, but yeah, lots of stuff he could have done. Perhaps we're thankful he didn't. But what we got was what we got, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Next fluid link. Michael from Tin Dog sent us a few. Tin Dog's Tin Dog's going through it a little bit too with this most recent year of Doctor Who, but he sent in one, and here it is. Would it not have made more sense for the Rani to have been fixated on bringing back the genetic genius of Tecteun and wanting to bring the Time Lords with her, using some of the made-up and recent show nonsense, The Timeless Child / Infinite Regeneration of the Doctor, rather than just some bloke from the 70s with a CSO face and a nice hat? Of course, referring
Does
to...
she know about Tecteun? That'd be my big question. Like, obviously, the Master told the Doctor about that.
Right.
So it's not unknown within... amongst Time Lords.
Yeah. Could she have Googled it? Could she have space Googled that? Is it on? Is it on the
Gallifroogled?
Gallifroogled.
Well, I can't remember exactly how the Master found all that out. Did he find it out? It was the deepest, darkest secret, and then he
through the Matrix. Yeah.
So maybe she doesn't have access, or at least the same kind of access to the Matrix that the Master does.
Yeah.
The flip side to that is, as a scientist, maybe that's the kind of thing she should, have. Maybe the kind of thing that she would
detect on her own. Yeah.
Yeah, just come across or research or whatever. Tecteun's dead. Leave her there.
Oh, I mean, everyone's dead. They bring him back. You know,
nobody's truly
What if
dead.
Tech
Nobody's
Tayun
truly
came back in the form of the Omega creature?
well,
That'd
here's
be
the
very
thing.
strange.
At least you could have brought back the original actor and the original, and have some actual visual connection to something. You know, it's
That doesn't have very strong end of series vibes, though, and that is something that RTD is good at, like in his own way. He's good at like I don't think the spectacle is needed, but he's good at presenting it. Is what I'm trying to say.
Opinions might differ on that, but.
Well,
That's the thing. There's a line to be there's a big area between Battle of Ranskorav Kolos and the Reality War or Empire of Death. You know, going massively huge and nonsense, or we're not bringing back anyone and just sort of fading out at the end of it.
Yeah.
There's an area in there where you can actually make something happen when it comes to
Let me put it another way.
finale.
It's not the kind of thing he would do. It's just Tech Tayun would be too low key for him. Whether or not it's good or not is irrelevant. It's just not the thing he would do.
That's true.
Susan like cameo.
That's true. Yeah, good point.
Maybe
She just
or
shows
some-
up and says, "What is this? Come on, guys. Let me explain how this really works."
or maybe some as the Doctor recovers his memory, some flashback to Tech Tayun, perhaps.
Possibly. Would it have made more sense? Possibly. But no. Maybe a different story would have made more sense. I don't know. I don't know. I guess we'll never know unless what we originally had planned for season 3, if there was a big plan for season 3. Anyway. Next fluid link. Kim Kolb, Kymkolb on Threads. Don't know how to pronounce that. Apologies. Asks.
You pronounce the Threads.
Threads. This is more kind of a comment than a question, but that's fine. Ncuti was brilliant. Ncuti was needed. I am sad that the Doctor regenerated so soon because I feel like he could have been developed so much more and had so many more stories to tell. But that is the life of Doctor Who. Get attached and then have ripped away. Yeah. Your thoughts on Gatwa's? It felt like it was cut short, wasn't it? I mean, in the grand scheme of things.
So Gatwa says that the plan was always 2 years and done.
Nonsense.
I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah.
Because I still don't believe Chibnall saying that or Whittaker saying that for. I don't believe them either. Anyway. In the Unleashed for Reality War, I mean, he says to Stephen Powell, like, this moment is coming as soon as you're hired, this moment is coming that you're going to have to pass the baton to somebody else. And fandom and the press and whatever, as soon as a new Doctor is announced, the third question out of their mouth afterward is, so, who's going to replace you?
Yeah, how long are you going to be in here?
Or something like that. How long are you going to be there? It's something of that ilk.
And that's all Doctors, basically.
Yeah.
Well, it is. It's nothing specific to him, but it's so annoying.
Right.
I wholeheartedly agree that I want more Ncuti. He brought a lot to the character. The whole bi-generation thing and the healing process and whatever. I think RTD and especially with Gatwa's help delivered on that. Like at the in Reality War, he even says that this is he says whatever it is, but in that vein, saying that he's there to heal stuff and stuff.
Well, he's talking to 13. He says, "I'm the reason that you don't do that. I'm here because of that."
That's the bit, yeah, because she didn't say that she loved Yaz.
Yeah,
that's right. That's what the context was. But I want more Ncuti.
And the fact that we had 3 episodes where he essentially wasn't in it. With, 2 episodes in season 1, then bizarrely Lucky Day never in it really there. When there was no logistical reason for him not to be in the episodes, unlike him shooting Sex Education in season 1. That was a frustrating thing too. It and looking back at clips and stuff, like I feel like the most real performance we got from Gatwa was literally day 1, his anger and rage at the end of Dawn Bubble.
Dawn Bubble.
Like, God, what a performance that is. It's so like just he never got to do that as much. Like, you know, it's all great to be all lovey and dovey and enjoy the universe and absolute joy and like, but sometimes just like it's almost like toxic positivity. It just feels like
telling off Conrad at the end. That was kind of
he's allowed a little bit there. You know, like I think him doing the shock torture on the guy, the Hellion guy from Interstellar,
it seemed a little stapled on.
It did seem stapled on. It didn't really form naturally out of it. You know, there should be a natural progression to a Doctor's rage, and I think that then that was allowed. And I miss it when the show builds up to a certain reaction towards that, and instead of, as you say, Warren, having it stapled on. I don't think we had enough of that. We didn't get enough of that. I think it was a lot of it was just a lot like Ted Lasso in space. He was just like, oh, I love this and this is great and this is lovely and smile and laugh and everything else. And he didn't seem to have the chance to be upset by injustice in the world or anything like that, and just you know, or a stoic reaction to it, or you know, he just never had the chance in these episodes to do that, be it the way it was written, be it the situations that he was in, you know.
And part of it is just there's less episodes for them to work with, like
and shorter episodes,
episodes too.
Versus like Whittaker, yeah.
And even though you got like, I liked David Tennant's 14th Doctor, shockingly enough, I thought I was going to hate it, and I thought they did a pretty good job. But the fact that he's bi-generated, so he's still kicking around somewhere, lets you in your head go, all right, well, he's still got more story to tell, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Like, probably in Big Finish. But then also you can kind of feel when a Doctor's time is up, right? And it kind of works, and except for Eccleston and Ncuti, though, were those two with extenuating circumstances, probably it doesn't feel like they should be done at all. You know what I mean? Like,
although it feels like we like Eccleston had more of an arc, even in the 13
that's true.
episodes that we had. And it wasn't even planned to be until like late, basically. Well, now we got to write him out because he's leaving, you know.
And then you get something like John Hurt, who has essentially like an episode and a bit, like because it's John Hurt and Stephen Moffat, A, writing at the height of his powers, and B, with a gun to his head because of circumstances. Like you get a whole arc out of this, but it's, you know, but if that isn't John Hurt or some similar equivalent excellent actor, like things all just kind of came together for that. So I don't know if it's a fair comparison.
Yeah, and there's actual scenes where characters have conversations and discuss. It's three doctors locked in a cell.
Yeah,
that they weren't actually locked out of, but they've been trying to, you know, in the
what
in
a
the
great
dungeon.
scene that, like, right? The Doctor's so good.
That, like, those are the scenes that we missed in the RTD. We were overwhelmed by spectacle that we never had these little scenes where it's just two or three characters like forced to sort of like confront the situation, you know. David Tennant and the 10th Doctor and Rose in Impossible Planet.
You
Satan
got
Pit.
those in the first RTD era.
We did.
Yeah, I was going to say, you get a bit of that in like Gridlock, for example.
Gridlock is great for it, you know. Like,
or even Doctor's Daughter, which isn't great. He's talking about the Time Lords, and it actually is very effective.
Yeah.
I think you get a little more in the Capaldi era between Matt Smith on the phone to Clara, or the Doctor's whole "Am I a good man?" thing from season 8.
Yeah.
That is absent, isn't it?
No. It is absent. You know, and like the episodes are as long as they were. They weren't shortened. If anything, there was slightly. There's some episodes in the RTD are like 43 minutes long. You know. But there's just a lot of spectacle in there. I think this is the great thing. I mean, this dates back to every TV show, you know, where you have like, you know, you've got your cheap episodes that we could afford to make because there's a mid-season 2-parter or you know, the Star Trek Next Generation finales or something, or the expensive one, but then we have to like basically use existing sets and actors for most of the episodes, and that's where actually you get the character pieces where we find out we care about these characters, we want to spend time with them on the ship or anything. And because we're down to 8 episodes and everyone has to be a visually impressive banger all-time episode, we miss those moments, you know.
Basically streaming is the worst thing that ever happened.
Yeah. Kind of is, actually.
we do get that in Rogue somewhat. I'm not going to say Rogue was a cheap episode as such, but it was one of the less
that's true.
One of the less showboat type
I
ones.
suppose, but you know what? But we learn, the one thing I don't like about that is that I like seeing about how the Doctor and the companion, why are they traveling together? Why are they friends? And we learn more about
where Belinda's presence is questionable.
It's completely rewritten at the end anyway. Like we never had a scene with the Doctor and Belinda talking about stuff. Never. We never really even had that
other than Belinda giving the doctor crap for scanning her DNA.
Right? Like that was a quick little thing. Oh, she doesn't mind when he's scanning Poppy's DNA, apparently.
Yeah.
You know, even with, you mentioned Rogue, like we learned about the doctor's relationship with Rogue, but it's completely separate to his one with Ruby. You know, like the bond of the companion and the doctor was implied and hinted at more than it was actually shown on screen. Like I mentioned at the time, like Boom felt like there was 3 episodes in between the Devil's Court and Boom because Ruby's willing to sacrifice her life essentially to save the doctor. Like, what, you literally just met him. What is going on? Like it was sort of like an implied relationship as opposed to one that we actually saw on screen.
The scene in Rogue with like the faces of the past doctors, for example, might have been nicer to have that involve Ruby, so she gets a better sense of who the doctor is or was. I mean, it's not wasted on Rogue as such, but it would have been more impactful to a character that's there for more than one episode.
Yeah. Ah, boy.
We're back to moaning.
A little bit. You know, the scene, I mean, it kind of shows that the scenes in Joy to the World that we remember the most are not the ones with Nicola Coughlan, the main guest star. It's the one where the doctor spends a year with Anita.
Those are great.
10-minute sequence is like, this is the best. This is like, we can
just slows things down and it's just interesting.
Yeah, you know, it's the character moments while we watch TV shows. You know, in the end, we don't really care about how much time it's spent to make a robot out of CG. You know, these are the moments that we're here for.
Well, exactly. Watching Classic Who, for example, and you know, cue the litany of emails saying, "Oh, you just always talk about Classic and hate on New Who, whatever." In Classic Who, how many janky sets and horrible effects and bad direction or whatever led to stuff that ended up being really good character moments.
Oh, I mean, one of my favorite Tom Baker moments is from State of Decay, where he's learning about the history of the Great Vampire and bow ships and all that. And it was made in Modern Who. It would be like there'd be a flashback sequence or something and a voiceover and everything else. State of Decay shows it, brilliantly directed by Peter Moffat, I might say. It's the Doctor talking to K9 and printing off ticker tape and reading it and walking around the TARDIS, and it's a brilliant 3-minute scene. And it's just like that's.
To be fair,
yeah.
If let's say they were talking during the David Tennant era and they showed bits and pieces, the first one, we would be thrilled about that because we finally got to see this thing. But now we've done that already.
Yeah.
So, you know.
There's a thrill in just storytelling sometimes. You know, we don't need to see the flashback.
But now, more so now than before, because before we never got that, and it was kind of cool to see these things fleshed out. Like Parting the Ways is a good example. You see the Daleks being bad mothers.
Yeah,
right.
But
which
also
we never really got to see before.
Also, like having David Tennant talk about Gallifrey at the very end of Gridlock. You know, like we see through we see what Gallifrey is like through his eyes at that point, but we don't actually see it, and that's kind of.
But counterpoint is during I think it's Sound of Drums, and they do the flashback to Gallifrey, and they don't really show that much, but it's very impactful, right? But it is the first time we've seen Gallifrey in the series. So.
Yeah, and now we see it nonstop.
Well, yes, but I'm just there is diminishing returns.
Yeah.
The old series like that too. By the time you get to Arc of Infinity, Gallifrey is like a shopping mall. Who cares?
Bunch of coffee bars everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas when you go in, like
suburban Gallifrey,
even in Invasion of Time, which is kind of ropey and silly in a lot of places, it's still got that Gallifrey vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Next fluid link. Neil Ottenstein on Blue Sky asks, were all the sequence of events in the Robot Revolution resolved or explained to your satisfaction? From why the Doctor was looking for Belinda, to Belinda causing the mess by telling the robots to abduct Alan, to the star certificate being found in the first place. Take your mind back 9 weeks to the Robot Revolution. Seems like an eternity ago.
Within the story itself, yes, at the time. But then when she offhandedly mentions that in the Reality War, I'm like, what the hell is she talking about? I had to actually think about what she was saying. And I'm like, I don't remember that. Oh, yeah, I guess. So yeah, I guess that did happen. With the glitch and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I can see why they introduced a character like why my brain's not working today. Jonah Howard King's character.
Conrad Clark.
I can see why they introduced a character like Conrad, but there's stuff that could have been done with that Alan character that could have replaced Conrad.
He could have, honestly, Alan could have been the Conrad figure. Like, why invent two people who are basically the same character? They're
I suppose, yeah.
No,
they could have just got this. Especially since we've already, met that character, met that actor, as it were.
And it would be interesting if the first episode is Conrad in the future when he's this AI thing, and then you meet him halfway through as this idiot podcaster, and knowing what his fate is going to be, that would be more interesting. But you start in the middle, kind of thing.
He's been like dating.
Do you write yourself into a corner?
Well, that's never happened with RTD, so no worries there.
Yeah. Sorry, Chris, say that again.
Do you write yourself, like if you know Conrad's ultimate fate? Are you limiting yourself in what you can do with the character?
Well, I would
because you have the endpoint
in a corner. Yes, because much as I'm writing RTD here, I'm pretty sure he'd do a better job than I would. So
yeah. It's not a good season for companions and their choice in partners, is it? With Conrad and with Alan and
although when's the last time a companion did have a good partner? Danny Pink,
that was a good
he seemed like an upstanding dude.
Yeah,
Heather.
Heather, the space water,
Heather the puddle.
Yeah, she's kind of a flake, honestly, but although she does save Bill's life,
bit of a flight risk. Yeah, that's what that could be it.
Andred and Leela, they're still together, presumably, according to Vam on a YouTube.
Yeah,
never. There was never a stronger relationship than theirs.
Nope, never.
Yeah, I think we talked about this before we started the episode, but they show flashbacks within the episode to stuff that happened like 8 minutes ago. But
I hate it when they do that.
In the reality war, where the Doctor sort of flings out the star certificate into the outside of the TARDIS door, it's sort of offhandedly, but that is, I think, so that sets in the Robot Revolution, doesn't it? That basically starts that whole ball rolling, essentially, and they just sort of mentioned it offhand.
When I said this before, whenever they flash back to something that happened in the episode, it always reminds me of that Andy Griffith, Leslie Nielsen movie, or whatever it was, where they flash back to the previous scene in black and white. Which it's not a great smooth movie, but that one made me laugh my butt off. I'm like, and that's kind of what this feels like every time I see it, especially if it's within the episode. I just saw it. It doesn't need to be sepia toned. I remember it. It was 10 minutes ago. What the hell?
But this is why that scene is important.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Anyway.
Yeah. Should they have done it previously on, maybe at the beginning of these episodes? It was just like,
well, maybe.
Previously,
wouldn't hurt.
Well, I mean, they literally did that before Twice Upon a Time, and they had all the archive footage of 10th Planet, so that's kind of been done. But honestly, previously on Doctor Who, and then we could have shown like Omega or something.
Wasn't the previously on was like the remade stuff, like from 10th Planet, right? Wasn't it? Like,
no, it originally was. They shot all of it, but they decided, let's just use the original stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of money spent on the Twice Upon a Time reboot of 10th Planet.
Pretty cool to see that remade 10th Planet stuff
in color, but we barely got to see it at all, thanks to them using actual footage of it in Twice Upon a Time. But yeah, Robot Revolution, was it? It was very quickly brushed over. I'll say that. I'm not sure.
A fun ride, though.
Yeah. We still got like zero explanation as to why Mrs. Flood would break the fourth wall on such a regular basis.
Which she does at the end of the first season too. Yeah.
Yep. Well, his journey will end in absolute terror, she said at the end of Joy to the World.
And it did not.
No.
Didn't really.
Unless he was terrified of becoming Billie Piper.
That could be
Aren't
it.
we all?
Probably. Next Fluid Link. This comes from Robert Zero on Blue Sky. Who else would you have liked, speaking of which, who else would you have liked to see Ncuti regenerate into, as opposed to Billie Piper? I offer Joe Martin, with 15 becoming the first-ish of Doctors, and the bi-generation can have a closed loop. Sometime later, 14 breaks out of the paradox, and Doctor Who continues on. Who else would you have liked to have seen Gatwa regenerate into?
I don't mind this Joe Martin thing because it would confuse the hell out of everybody, including me. So
that would be kind of cool. She's right there, It
would complicate things, which is interesting.
Maybe you don't have her show up in that cameo from Story in the Engine, and instead you have her, because that would have been generating like, oh my God, it's Joe Martin.
Yeah.
as
and
the
she's
Doctor.
she's continuing. So it's like, is this a new Joe Martin Doctor, or is this the same one, or like, how does this work?
Is this fugitive? I mean, it's kind of like you're kind of doing the same with Tennant in a way, but
I guess, yeah,
because Joe Martin's Doctor is so shrouded in mystery and where she fits in the timeline, that would like, oh my God, what is going to happen now? And it feels like we have a whole universe of adventures to explore, whereas Billie Piper is like it's a shock cameo to get the tabloids talking.
Yeah.
You know,
it also runs a risk of being, we just wrote off all of Chibnall's ideas with this. So there's that, but which RTD has, to be fair to him, made pains not to do.
That's true. Maybe, I mean, well, I don't know. What say you, Chris? Because I have a couple other options.
I don't even know.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
How about he regenerates into Dugga Doo?
Somebody's done that probably already.
No.
Certainly.
Well, I'm sure somebody has.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, especially with the especially with Billie Piper's head being superimposed. Why not a Dugga Doo head?
You could do literally anything. You could do literally anything. Omegas, the original OG Omega, maybe. That's what. That would have been fun. The Valeyard show. Oh my God, it's the Valeyard.
Let's turn this around into.
The Valeyard would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been interesting. I don't know if it'd been good.
It would have just been Michael Jason's face from the end of Trial of a Time.
Yeah, in SD.
In SD. Yeah, sorry.
No, I'm just gonna say that like we're doing exactly what RTT did, which is just going back to the well. We should.
Right.
I'd have to know more about British actors to do this right, but somebody completely new, some unknown.
Well, then that would have not caused any buzz whatsoever. I think
Matt Smith was kind of an unknown. He was only in a couple of shows before that, so kind of like somebody like that on the come up, whoever that might be.
So same with Gatwa.
Here's the thing, though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
this regeneration is different because we don't know what's coming next. That's the thing. We knew that a Matt Smith series was coming.
That's true.
We knew, we knew
a Tennant series was coming.
We knew the Tennant series was coming. So like this is all established. When you don't know, you can either go two ways. Put someone in there who you absolutely know, but have to wonder why they're there, like Billie Piper,
Jeff Goldblum.
Or like a stunt casting moment like that, just to get
like
people talking, so you can keep the ball in the air. Or do you leave it open ended?
I still think they should have done it like that.
I think they should have done it open ended,
and then they got all the time in the world to figure this out.
And then people will be zaprudering the last few frames.
Then you're doing the best of both worlds thing, where you literally had to wait months again. I mean, honestly, why RTD did not like? You'd think he'd be so tempted by that. That's kind of his jam.
Yeah, do you want people asking questions as to who it will be, or do you want asking questions who will be Billie Piper be? Obviously, he chose the latter.
Now, there's going to be some idiocy involved with that, but that's fandom, so I mean.
That's true. Yeah. Or, I mean, go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say there's no good answer to that question.
Yeah, true.
Unfortunately.
No.
Because like Warren was saying, like, I don't think any of us know enough about up and coming, less known British actors who might be considered for the role, regardless of sex or gender. And if you bring back somebody, if you bring back a familiar face like Billie Piper, then you're going all the way in the other direction, and I don't like that either.
No.
So.
No, it feels like you're treading water. That's the problem.
I know.
Just doing more of the same. That's what bugs me about it. Nothing against Billie Piper. It just feels like, this is an old character, essentially, or you're calling back to that person.
It's just a shock moment. It kind of reminds me, although I already mentioned the Valeyard, but, the reason that Eric Sayward and John Nathan Turner finally fell out was Sayward ended the Trial of a Time Lord with the Doctor and the Valeyard sort of tumbling into space in a grappling, kind of like Sherlock and Moriarty in Reichenbach Falls. And John Nathan Turner, wary of the future of Doctor Who at that point, didn't want to leave it open-ended because that might give the BBC an opportunity to cancel it. So they go, well, then they went off in the distance, and that's how the entire series ends. And so had it rewritten to have the Doctor be fine and walk off into the sunset, and the Doctor, the Valeyard shows up at the end. And Sayward hated that, and he left and pulled his script to the table and everything else. And I'm wondering if that's RTD's thought as well. Like, I don't know when this show is coming back now. I don't want to leave it on a thing where maybe the Doctor just sails off into the universe alone. Because that could be seen as a natural end to a show as well. He needs to have an open end so that he can close the loop at some point. So people will be demanding no, you can't have Doctor Who go away because we have to find out why Billie Piper became Doctor Who. So I could see why he did it if that was a thing, you know?
So many shows that don't necessarily have a known future.
Yeah.
Have cliffhangers at the end of their first season, second season, whatever.
Yeah.
Sledgehammer for one.
Yeah.
They don't know if they've been renewed. And yeah, so Sledgehammer 80s. Like it goes
like
it's
7, season 3. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a new thing at all. But it kind of sucks that we have open-endedness in that way because we're never going to have answers in some circumstances, but as far as the initial Fluid Link question is concerned, I think my answer has now become Patterson Joseph.
Fair enough.
That would have been awesome.
I'm still bitter that Patterson Joseph has not been the Doctor because he would have been great. I think
people who know the lore. I mean, God, what a deep cut inside joke that would be. Like, oh, it's Patterson.
I don't mind
Joseph.
a super deep cut like that.
Yeah, people that know would know. One last Fluid Link. This comes from I Am Foreman, Forman, spelled the Remembrance of the Daleks way,
Nice.
on Threads, asks, do you think after a little time has passed, or maybe it will have to be a lot of time, and you revisit these last 2 seasons, will your opinion change for the better, worse, or stay the same? How has it usually been for you in the past season/series? Oh, I mean, Chris, you've sort of been digging into the Jodie Whittaker era recently with the Blu-ray set, and you've kind of come around a little bit more on the first 2 seasons of hers, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm more 11 than 12, but yeah, it's definitely grown in my estimation for enjoyability, and I think that is, as the question kind of says, that's just time, that's distance, that's I'm not the same person I was when I watched season 11 in 2018. Nobody is. So yeah, I think ideally it's something that we're going to appreciate more. But again, like talking, like I was saying earlier on, I mean, right now I would rather watch season 2 again than season 1 for Gatwa's stuff. But Gatwa's first season, when I did watch it, a few months back, definitely, rose in my estimation there as well. So I think on the whole, as we have more time to think and digest and all that kind of stuff, I'd like to think that on the whole things will get, better from nostalgia.
Warren, what about you?
I agree. I think it's if you give it more time, then all the factors that we're getting in your way, which are unavoidable, like the fact that there's going to be something coming up next week and you just saw something last week, for instance, doesn't get in your way. You can you can not only appreciate the stuff that they got right better, but you can also kind of paper over the stuff that you didn't like, because you're like, well, I already know I don't like that, so let's move on to the next thing. And it's easier to kind of just move past that as my voice goes away.
Yeah. It's kind of, I mean, it's the plight of the podcaster in a way too. Like, when it's easy for us to say, oh, I'm going to watch the first one just for me. And, but then I have to start, Chris, you take notes and stuff. We sort of like thinking about things to say about it the next day and sort of formulate our thoughts. And, so many people don't actually have this problem. They don't actually I need to talk about this for an hour and a half on the next day after this airs. And that kind of like, sometimes I have to admit that kind of clouds my, initial and then, I watch it like 2 or 3 times in a weekend, and then I talk about it, and then I listen to a couple other podcasts about it.
Done of it. Yeah.
I'm done. I don't want to watch that anymore. You just baked in it for a weekend. I think it. I kind of put. We complain about Disney Plus having this, or Disney having this moratorium on physical media releases, 1 calendar year away from when the broadcast ended, hence the June 24th for the release date of season 1, because that's literally a year to the day of when Empire of Death aired. That's when that's coming out. Having a physical release of all the episodes, as opposed to just a page on Disney Plus where you just like next episode and stuff like that. That kind of helps for me anyway. Having it to watch a complete package on its own outside of the Disney Plus streamiverse, so to speak, might help a little bit. I mean, to that end though, I cracked the plastic, but I slid right back onto the shelf. The specials, maybe that's just kind of when it came out. It came out like December and stuff like that. It was a busy time, and I haven't really gone back to them and such. And I'd like to watch that. That feels a part of the piece anyway to it too. So I imagine I don't know when the season 1 set comes out here in a couple weeks. Like, I don't know if I'll immediately get to it, especially since I've mostly watched the War Games anyway, based on the version I have, but because that comes out the same day. I think my opinions will change on it. It's always a snapshot. It's all, whenever you're watching, whatever Doctor Who you're watching is a snapshot of the time that it was made. And I think sometimes it's easier to put that into context when you're seeing it, several months or years down the line.
Well, you talk about the podcaster's curse. Don't know if I like that phrasing.
I kind of do like that.
But I know what you mean.
Feel sad for your podcasters, dear listeners.
Yeah, boo-hoo.
What a terrible life we have.
Yeah, but it is definitely one thing to sit there and watch it, like, at the minute it goes out, which we'd want to do no matter what. But
yeah,
and then just try to squeeze in a second viewing before talking about it and watching the Unleashed and watching the behind the scenes and the other EPK stuff and formulating opinions and trying to think of how to phrase things. And there's a huge difference between that and just like, I want to watch Pyramids of Mars today. Let's watch Pyramids of Mars.
Right.
Watching your favorite show for the umpteenth time. Yeah. It's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, I feel like watching The Well. Well, so let's watch The Well.
Yeah, exactly.
Like yeah.
You know what would I would like it for a little time. I wish the Blu-rays came out with infotext, because that's my favorite feature of the classic Blu-ray sets. And,
that is the most you thing I've ever heard.
Had like infotext on modern Who releases. Oh man! And you know what? Maybe in the years to come, when maybe the people who are making the classic Who Blu-ray collection sets are working on the new series ones, and those have infotext. That is the moment when I will cherish.
You have to count on the dork level being as high as our own, which is a rare thing indeed. So
that's
what happened with those Blu-ray sets. Yes,
that's what happened. They exceeded my expectations. There are bigger nerds out there who actually have talent to make these Blu-ray sets for people like me to devour. So
I mean, you gotta remember that's a pretty. And I'm in this niche, but it's a pretty niche audience.
Yeah, so 2026, the earliest possible time from the Blu-ray set comes out, but like 2045 when the collection ray set comes out for
the collection ray set.
The collection ray, because that's what we called it. Yeah,
that's in 16K for some reason.
16K Disney. Hopefully it'll be 4K by then.
Let me see. I'll be a sprightly 75 by that point.
Oh, looking forward to it. Reason to keep going, Warren. It's a reason to keep going.
Are you sure about that? Anyway,
I'm still very, very on the fence about actually going through with the purchase of the season 1 Blu-ray, because for as long as I subscribe to Disney Plus, stuff is there anyway.
That's true.
I do absolutely prefer having a physical copy, because streaming is garbage for reliability in that regard.
Yep.
I still think I want to cancel that, but I probably won't, because I want that physical. Copy. But by the same token, I mean, in a year from now, when season 2 is allowed to be on Blu-ray in North America, are we going to get? Because we've had a complete Tennant Blu-ray set. We've had a complete Matt Smith Blu-ray set. We've had a complete Capaldi Blu-ray set. We've had a complete Whitaker Bluray set.
Yeah.
We've had a complete Tennant Specials Blu-ray set, because that's a different animal, but still. And they did up whatever up-resing for Eccleston and released that on Blu-ray for his one year. But are we gonna have this combination set where it's gonna have everything and for less money, and be it 4K or not? should be 4K. No reason it shouldn't be 4K.
Chris is starting the petition right now for the 4K.
Well, I mean, at this point, I've
release.
off the top of my head, I can't remember if the iTunes version of the Tenant specials is HD or 4K. I'd have to look that up. But I have decided I'm not buying the Blu-ray set because I bought it on iTunes for what, $8? Whatever we paid for it. I'm content enough with that, and I'm hesitant to spend the money on something that I know should be better.
I know what you mean. And so basically the 4K release is when you'll revisit the past 2 seasons to get back to the original question. Yeah.
Maybe, like I said, for as long as I subscribed to Disney Plus, and it wasn't that long ago that I renewed for another year. I can just.
I was going to say, what's in fact with me too. What is waiting for me on Disney Plus? Like, there's no new Star Wars or Marvel that I can think of. So
the war between the land and the sea. That's what's coming.
I guess. Yeah, I guess I'm contractually obligated to keep Disney Plus for now.
There you are. There you are. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Thank you all for playing Fluid Links. We're dipping back in time, as I said, putting season 2 and reason 2 to bed for a little bit, apart from news and stuff like that. It's commentary time next week, kids. The Visitation. Part 1 is our commentary for next week. We recorded that way back in January. If you were a Patreon supporter, you already heard it. It's
what naive political discussions will foment from that, I wonder.
God, I can't even imagine right now. We recorded that in person. Warren was in Edmonton at the time.
Oh, that's right. We were, yeah. Most of it is me harassing one of Chris's cats who loved my watch reflecting light on the floor.
Yeah, there you go. So...
Yeah.
So that starts next week as we barrel through the summer and wait for news of Doctor Who and further Doctor Who. Because hey, whenever there's a North American release of a classic Blu-ray set, usually that means a new release of the UK release of the next one is coming soon. I have no idea if that's happening anytime soon, but maybe that'll be something we wait for as well. Anyway, lots of stuff to talk about still. Even though there's no Doctor Who on the air right now, there's lots of stuff to talk about here on this podcast, Radio Free Skaro. So in the meantime and in between time, I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
So long for now.